Today's video is sponsored by Picker's Grip. Stop dropped picks and pick rotation while playing with Picker's Grip. Made with all natural ingredients in Virginia. Check out their website to order. When you support my sponsor, this also supports my channel and it's very much appreciated. Today here at Robert's Guitar Dungeon, I'm going to show you how to, and more importantly, how not to dial in a killer rock and metal distortion tone. I've talked a lot on my channel about the gear that I used when I was a kid, growing up, aspiring to be a rock and metal guitar player. And the only thing that I could figure out was to crank the bass, crank the treble, and dial the mids all the way out until that knob wouldn't turn any further back. And that was what I knew how to do back then. And because of that, I still have a soft spot in my heart for metal distortion pedals that are designed with that scooped out type of tone. However, in a real life situation, i.e. in a recording studio of some kind, even laying down your own tracks at home, or most importantly, in a live band situation, mid-range is your friend, and gain is not necessarily your friend. So, what I have learned over the years is to crank up the mids and dial back the gain and adjust the bass and treble as necessary. And the reason why the mids are so important is because guitar frequency has a home in the sense of, it has a home in relation to the rest of the instruments in the band. And where it sits is right about here. Just for a visual standpoint, and I don't care what you do to it, there's nothing you can do to make it go down here or up here. And up here, this is kind of where the drums and the treble and the cymbals live. Down here, this is the bass guitar player, the bass drum, the lower toms. And guitar needs to sit right in the middle. And it's real important for guitar not to step on anybody else's toes. And reason why is because in a mix, if you do, you get lost in a real big hurry, and lack of mids is the primary reason for that. Back in the 80s, it was real popular. Metallica were notorious for scooping out their mids, but most of us aren't running our recordings through a multi-million-dollar studio like they had the luxury of doing back then. So I'm gonna give you 4 examples of what that mid control on your amplifier or your distortion pedal actually does and why it is so important. While this amp has plenty of gain on tap, I think you can notice a big difference when I have the gain dialed all the way back to this amp. I tend to keep it on the low gain setting between the switch here, and please check out my video on the Panama FiveWatt to understand the features of this particular amplifier. But for today's purposes, we got it on the low switching, and the gain knob is turned down to about 10 o'clock, and that's it. Bass is at about 2 o'clock, trebles at about 1 o'clock, and mids are almost 3, about 2:30 anyway. And it's a big difference so between the two. Whereas the bass on 10, the treble on 10, the mids on 0. You can kind of see here in this example, and this amp is a pretty mid-rangey sounding amplifier, especially on the gain channel. Let's check out a little bit more extreme example. I think that's a little bit better example, and I think in that first example between the two, you can see how the guitar tone just completely disappears. And the reason being is because the frequencies are too spread out. It is way too much guitar down here, way too much guitar up here, and nowhere near enough right here where it needs to be. I wanted to share this video because when I was just getting started and playing with bands and learning about some of these things, this is one of those things that I just kind of had to learn to figure out on my own. I didn't have, I was playing with a bunch of other guys that were, also inexperienced, and none of us really knew how to dial any of this stuff in. So I had to learn this essentially on my own. And what I experienced by doing that is, the cool tones that I was hearing in my bedroom, all of a sudden I didn't get when I was playing with a band, and it was kind of discouraging because, number one, that's what I was used to, and at the time I thought it sounded cool, so it definitely took some getting used to. But I promise you, all your favorite metal bands don't use nearly as much gain, and they use a lot more mid-range than you probably think they do on the recording. So much of the recording that you're hearing is some of those other instruments that are taking place, and all mixed together, particularly by a professional studio engineer. Finally, I found myself playing in a situation with a bunch of guys who had a lot more experience than I did, and they were the ones that were, that finally helped me to train my ear a little bit better and teach me the importance of these things. And turning up the mids and turning down the bass and the treble was something that I needed to hear much sooner than I ever did. If you're young and getting started out there and you go to, it sounds great, your guitar tone sounds great in your bedroom, when you go to band practice, it completely disappears and you find yourself wondering why. This is why. Turn up the mids, turn down the gain. I promise you, you're going to sound killer. So hopefully somebody out there finds this helpful and informative. And if you did, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the little bell icon right next to it so you don't miss out. Links to all the gear used in this video, as always, will be down in the description. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And last but not least, go check out my Teespring shop. Because when you buy t-shirts from my Teespring shop, and coffee mugs and stickers and all kinds of other stuff that are listed in there, those funds go right back into supporting this channel and gives me the opportunity to keep creating content for you guys and for anybody else that might want to see it here at some point, which of course is what I really love to do. See you in the next video. Turn up your mids.
You know what? There are tons of young people out there that want to get involved in music and do not have the means to do so. If you are watching this video, most likely you're a musician, and many experienced musicians have tons of broken and unwanted gear lying around that they're not doing anything with. Please visit my friends at Share the Music on Facebook at the link below and learn how you and your unwanted gear can help change somebody's life.